Showtime.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Galactic Nerd Outpost and Ultramonth. And today, joining me is Cody Bratsch and maybe Huber when he decides to join, but we'll have to see. But deciding to give a little, might as well give everyone a little idea what happened to the video. Right now I have that privated because me and Cody noticed when it came to the video there was some iffy edits there that were too fast, and others that were others where the music was a little too loud. But the trigger review will be back up. Don't worry, it will. I'm also gonna add in a few more lines that I wanted to do because there was some stuff that I ended up cutting out to make it come out on time. So there will also be more things I'm gonna be dissecting in that video, but it will be back up, so don't worry. But until then, at least we have the podcast to be on.
But he's a one-man video maker, folks. Give him some slack.
Yep. But today, what we're going to do is we're going to recommend 3 to 5 Ultra movies / shows that are what we think is some of the best starting points to get into the movie. And when it comes to these, gonna let known that there's gonna be some stuff that it's only 3 to 5, so there's plenty of other Ultra entries that me or Cody hasn't mentioned that are just as good. Just the thing is, they didn't come to me when I put together this list, but they are just as good as starting points. But we do have ours, in mind, so be prepared and enjoy. My first starting point is going to have to be, when it comes to recommendations, Ultra 7. Why do I choose Ultra 7? Because, well, not only is it one of the most popular entries, it'll also give you a taste into Showa Ultraman, but it took what came beforehand of Ultraman and perfected it by taking it not only into a more mature way, but with better effects, far more exciting action scenes as they do hold up a lot better. And there's even gore involved, so if you enjoy bloody fights, the conclusions to Ultra 7 will give you quite the satisfaction when it comes to those. And when it comes to those types of fights, the gory conclusions, the blood for a 1967 TV show is actually pretty impressive, especially till this day, when you can see him just slice up the monsters and all that stuff. It's crazy. And also, I heard many people compare it to stuff like Doctor Who, I think. So if you enjoy that type of sci-fi, but want to go dive into what the Ultra series has to offer, you can't really go wrong with 7. Plus, it has a really good cast of characters, and it has a nice darker tone than what came before it, as though the original Ultraman had some horror-themed moments / episodes, it was overall a more fun and lighthearted series, and that's okay. But 7 kind of takes that and not only perfects it, but does more different stuff with it, that if you're looking to check out the Showa era of Ultraman, say you could get a lot of what you're looking for. Plus, the Saiyajins are pretty awesome, along with the kaiju, some of the most iconic monsters formed there. And it's easy to see why he's became one of the biggest faces in the Ultra series. But if you're looking to give that a watch, there is the DVD and Blu-ray release of it by Mill Creek. So if that one catches your interest, go for it. Plus, there's a lot of modernized sequels to it, like the Heisei Ultra 7, Ultra 7X, amongst many, many more. And he appears in the majority of Ultra shows and movies. So watching this show would give you an idea what it would kind of give you an idea who Dan Murabushi is as a character. What was he like beforehand? And you can kind of grow a bigger connection to him when you see him again in other Ultra shows and films. But that's my first pick. What's yours, Cody's? Cody?
Well, before I get onto it, I just want to say, in addition to everything you said about Ultra 7, never underestimate the power of 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7.
That song is catchy. It is. It's fucking catchy. I love that song.
Same. And now, before I do my first pick, I'm actually going to kind of do something a little weird, a little out of the format, and recommend a show you should not try to watch as your first Ultra series like I did. That being Ultraman, the Ultimate Hero, aka Ultraman Powered. Stay away from that show. Because sort of carrying on from the story I was trying to tell last podcast, how I got into Ultraman, after I watched that first clip entitled Godzilla vs. Ultraman, which was really just Ultraman fighting Jiris, I start reading up on Ultraman, start watching a few Ultraman fight clips on YouTube, and also the Ultra monsters were prominently featured in that one stop motion show from Goji 73, Godzilla and His Amazing Friends. And the whole time I'm just like, wow, this is so cool. I really should watch one of these shows. And in my research on Ultraman while reading up, I found a Wikipedia article for The Ultimate Hero, aka Powered, that talked about how it was an American-made show. So I'm just like, because well, I am American, I speak a freaking English. I'm just like, this could be a good way. I thought it could be a good way to get into the show, into the series as a whole, like a good transitional series. I was so very wrong because, well, it was weird. When I first watched it, I thought it was serviceable enough because, like, it sort of looked like with the cinematography and special effects, it sort of looked like something like Brand, whoever it was that runs Full Moon Pictures. It seemed like one of the subsidiaries, his children's and family entertainment, be it Pulse Pounders or Moonbeam, would make. But still, at the same time, something seemed off. I rewatched the first episode recently, and I realized what it is. It has in addition to the acting being very hammy, very bleh, the special effects somehow managed to be both simultaneously better most Ultra series of the time war, or the preceding Ultra series that was. I can't seem to somehow better, and at the same time, part of it was how crappy the kaiju fights were, because they seemed so fragile, like fucking anything actors in it were doing their best to preserve the suit, because it seemed like anything they did, if they could wreck the suits.
Yeah, most definitely. So
it also had this weird thing where obviously they're rubber suits, but they also have the sound effect put in intentionally, where you can hear the rubber stretching. It's like, you do realize we're not supposed to know they're rubber suits, right?
Yeah, and it's crazy because there's a lot of detail in the suits. Like, they look great.
Howard, it's bad. It's very bad.
Like, they look great, but the fight scenes that come with them, they're not. And there's really a lot of piss poor effort put into it. Like, it's better than Hanuman and the 7 Ultra Brothers, but that's not saying much. But do you have to say about Powered?
Like I said before the stream started, a small mountain to climb.
Yes, most definitely. But so when it comes to so my next pick would be, when it comes to recommendations, Ultra Q. This is another Showa era, but since it's vastly different and kind of draws parallels to something like Twilight Zone and another show. I forgot what the other show's called, but it draws similarities to that and Twilight Zone, just with reoccurring characters and also kaiju and other Japanese stuff thrown in occasionally. And it's unique. It's something that offers a very weird but intriguing experience that is, for those who aren't familiar with the Ultra series and might not know this, Ultra Q came before Ultraman. And if you're looking to get into something that goes less cheesy than a giant alien hero battling monsters and other aliens, this will kind of give you a taste of what you're going to get in that later, but in a more what's the word I'm looking for? A more friendly, I guess you could say it's more friendly to a lot of a lot of the general audience here in the West, but but still gets you ready for what's to come, along with a likable cast of characters and some nice switch of tones. Some episodes are more fun, some episodes are more dark. It's overall very unique, and it offers a lot of what you could get in later Ultra stuff without while also being new and different. Interesting enough, it was being made at the same time as Ultraman and came out the same year, 1966. But if you ask me which one I like better, Ultra Q or the original Ultraman, I think Ultra Q is the better show. As Ultraman, the original Ultraman, there is a lot of technical flaws, like the suit for Ultraman at first is pretty bad till they get a better one later on, and there is also other problems that come with it. Well, Q, I think, had a better cast of characters, better tone, better way of handling its tones, and overall gave a more memorable experience. But it also has a nice little atmosphere to it that you ain't gonna get out of any other Ultra show. And it's kind of crazy that this is how the franchise all started, because like I said, it's similar to Ultraman, but it's at the same time it's not. And I think overall it is a really good starting point. But and plus, huh?
Oh, I was just gonna say that I agree. Ultra Q is not only a good starting point, also a fascinating one, because even though it's so different from like what the rest of the Ultra series became about afterwards, it's Twilight Zone-esque sci-fi horror mystery. You can't go wrong with that, especially with kaiju added in.
Yep. Plus, you have a pretty unique soundtrack that's been redone and at the beginning of the intro to the first Ultraman. It's been done in Ultra Q Dark Fantasy. It's been done in Neo Ultra Q, and even lately, for those of you who've seen the little teaser clip that's released to Shin Ultraman not long ago, even Shin Ultraman redid it, and it's fucking crazy. It just goes to show the impact it's had on the Ultra series. So not only are you watching the first ever addition to the Ultra series before Ultraman was even a thing, you're also getting, I think, one of the more unique aspects that well, now don't go into expecting everything to be exactly like it. That's one of Ultra Q's. That's one of the reasons that makes Ultra Q so fascinating to check out as your first, is it is so different, but at the same time, it's not like it's an entirely different beast. You could still tell it's from the same series.
Absolutely.
But what's something you actually recommend, Cody? Your first you actually recommend.
Ooh, I'm really excited for this one, because whereas I couldn't finish Ultraman Powered, I only got 8 episodes in and decided to call it quits. This one, the first Ultra series I fully watched and loved from beginning to end, Ultraman X.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, I
It
caught
is.
the show when it was like first out because it was at that time it became more easily accessible here in America. Yes.
Yeah.
It started on Crunchyroll, but then through a lot of fan downloads and then uploads onto YouTube, I was able to watch it. Now, it was still doing the gimmick that a lot of people apparently don't seem to like with Spark Dolls, which is basically just the action figures for the Ultra Monsters, but put into the show to advertise. Because at most of the shows being these henshin shows, hero shows, is advertisement for toys. But I feel like while I get why it could make some groan, I actually thought it was kind of cute, a little neat. It's like, here is the actual toy, but we're making it a prop for this show. We're actually using it in the narrative. Plus, it leads to like some fun fights where Ultraman X does all sorts of transformations and different sort of combinations with like it's come on Cody. Uh, okay, I totally forgot what I was gonna say. I lost my train of thought, but basically, Ultraman X. He he has a whole lot of different power ups and transformations that he uses to help him fight the Ultra monsters. And there's a lot of Ultra monsters in the show, including one of my favorites that I forgot the name of last stream, but I remember now, Gorgon, which was like a
Yes.
three-headed monster.
The Medusa-like kaiju.
Go ahead.
The Medusa-like
That's the one.
kaiju. Yep, I always like that one too. And I do want to say, I completely agree with you on the Spark Doll thing. I always found it to be a unique way to advertise the toys while doing it in a way where it was canon to the show. I found it to be unique, especially that when you buy them, and yes, I'm a fucking man-child that buys action figures, shut the fuck up. And it makes you feel, it's like when you buy them, you're actually buying one of the monsters. Even as an adult, it's still pretty unique. Yep.
I don't know anything about buying action figures.
But I always found that to be a cool way to do it. I think, honestly, the argument when people are like, oh, advertising bad, it's like the whole thing of advertising bad. I don't like that argument because it's like that kind of defeats the thought that creativity can work. Like how Ultraman did it, it took the whole process of advertising their stuff in a way where it's actually unique and canon. Like, how is that an issue?
And again, it leads to so many cool transformations, like so many different combinations. Like, I love when like the heroes can transform into a even more powerful version or get a little power boost from a new weapon or anything. So long as it's used in moderation. I don't think Ultraman X went way too far with that at all. I think they did just enough. And plus, it was just fascinating for me seeing the way an Ultra series works, especially a modern one, because, well, it was the first show I saw all the way through, and it was a good cleanser after the show that was powered. And
yes, most
I
definitely.
will say, the opening theme for this one is easily my favorite Ultraman opening theme. I can't remember a single one of the lyrics, but I can hum the rhythm and bob my head to it easily.
Oh yeah, it's pretty good. And then it also has that nice blend that you get out of many Ultra shows of fun, but also serious. So that's nice. Some episodes are more goofy and comedic. Some episodes are more dramatic and story driven. And it's a nice blend you can really get out of many Ultra shows. It'll give you a nice little taste of what the majority of the franchise will give you.
And another good thing about it is well, actually, this is a good thing about the most of the Ultra shows, I would say, is that even though the other Ultramen do occasionally come in for like a guest appearance, the series still, for the most part, stands well on its own. And for the elements that come in from other Ultra series, they explain it efficiently enough to where like it's not distracting or you feel like you have to do any homework or you feel like you're confused like wait what's he doing here, huh? There's more of them. What the hell's going on? Or at least it didn't for me. Like I understood from the beginning that there are other ultras. They're not always in the same universe because there's a big whole ultra multiverse out there, which is pretty cool. And if you want to know more about those ultras, seeing them guest star in shows like these could be a good gateway for you to watching their shows and movies.
Exactly. Especially if you like them as characters.
Which I did.
But
I don't
yeah,
think there was a single bad character on Ultraman X. I know I'm
there
supposed to like
wasn't.
watch Trigger eventually because I want to get into it because it looks.
Hmm? Cody? Cody. Well, I guess while he's out, I'll read the chat. JS Penna said, "Let me guess. I should start with the first Ultraman series. The first Ultraman series is good, but honestly, that is not in my top 5 recommendations, as there's a lot positive about it. It doesn't get, I wouldn't say compare out of other entries, it's gonna give you that best impression oh shit, I gotta watch more of this. It might, and if you want to start with the first, go ahead. It's a really good show, but that's not it. But I think when it comes to entries that came later or the one that came before, being Ultra Q, there was ones that give a better impression of the franchise, and that will really have you thinking, oh man, I gotta get more of this. Okay, Cody, and what were you about to say about
Yeah, I
Trigger?
would have to agree because I was gonna. Oh darn! I got this shit. I was gonna say even though I want to get back into Trigger, watching Trigger eventually, I also more so want to rewatch Ultraman X.
Oh,
And
go for it.
to put a finer point on what you were saying about the original Ultraman, I would agree it's definitely not the best starting point because even though I like it all right, when I was going into it, I was expecting it more because I had this idea in my head of what the first Ultraman show was supposed to be, but it didn't live up to that only because they were just starting out with the concept. So like a lot of what you see is prototypical of this in the show. Anything that
Yeah.
was introduced in it usually got brought back in later Ultra series, but done better.
Yeah, you could definitely tell out of the 2 Ultra shows that was being worked on at the time, that and Ultra Q had the more effort put into it, but they still did a really good job with Ultraman. I recommend checking it out. Please don't take this the wrong way. Go and watch the original Ultraman eventually, but it's not what I would say gonna be one that's to start off with, since there are better ways. But when it comes to my next pick is gonna be Ultraman the Next and its sequel, Ultraman Nexus. Why do I choose these? Well, first of all, they are one of the best entries in the Ultraman franchise, and I will forever stand by that. And I'm not just saying, not only is it did they take the concept of, when it comes to the next case, taking many elements from the original series and modernizing it into a movie with a more adult and mature tone. The Next did a really good job at building up to Nexus by introducing the Ultraman, all this biblical lore, which Ultraman always had this biblical like thing going on with him. He's portrayed as a being of light, but the Next and Nexus going with a more darker tone to it, they're able to take a lot of the more darker aspects of religion and further them. And that's one of the things I really do like about it. And and Nexus is one of the few that actually where the host of Ultraman switches, and it's done in a way that's actually fresh and new. That's something I really enjoyed, and every episode of Nexus builds off literally ends where it's coming towards another. So when you're watching it, you get that thought of, oh god, I can't stop watching. I'm going to keep coming back to this. It has that reoccurring narrative that's just very nice. Like when it goes on to another kaiju, it's done at the end of that episode or something. And you learn more about Ultraman and his past throughout. And like, here's the thing: watch the next before Nexus, because the next is the beginning to that story, and Nexus progresses it. It's just a shame that when the company was airing Nexus, despite targeting an adult audience, at first the company thought that to get both kids and adults watching, they aired it early in the morning because there's a lot of kids who like Ultraman too. But unfortunately, when they did that, the network failed because they were like, oh yeah, let's get kids to watch this too, even though the show is targeting adults. And that was dumb because because no kid wanted to watch Nexus, so it was doing piss poor views. So finally, once that their actions started to bite them in the ass, they started airing the episodes late at night, and that's when the views spiked up real high. Now Nexus is actually a very successful Ultra series. Of course, thanks to that, a lot of the there is some episodes that didn't air, but they did get released on the DVD, and you can access them, luckily. Just unfortunately, we didn't get any more of the Ultra N project. Like, there was actually going to be another movie. That would have been incredible. Granted, Nexus has a satisfying conclusion, but if it had a movie afterwards, I would have loved that if the network didn't fuck up the airing schedule at first. But there's so many things that go on. Like, you get reimaginings of older kaiju done in this very darker, religious type of way. And I like how the Sajin and the kaiju aren't really different from each other in the Next or Nexus, because they're really just portrayed as demons. But not in a very over-the-top biblical way. Like, there's elements of it, but done in Ultraman fashion. Like the Sajin, which they would be typically known as in other Ultra shows, are simply just ones that talk. That's why you even have ones like Mephisto, Faust, and all of that, being the darker versions of the Next, Noah, etc. And the Next / Noah is essentially based off of stuff like God and Noah. And I'm not a religious person, but there's so much interesting stuff in the Bible that makes for some really good storytelling, and the elements that they really did take to craft the lore and Nexus and the Next, I found to overall be very exciting. Plus, that opening is kick-ass. Like, it's a darker Ultra show, so with a more serious tone like that, it's a perfect build-up. And in terms of the next case, Beast of One is incredible. Very intimidating villain that really dived into it, especially since he's kind of like Ultraman, where he takes the human host, just Ultraman gives equal control to the host. They fuse together, while the One takes the host and essentially devours them. That's one of the things that I really, really enjoyed. Like, if you're wanting to just watch Ultraman, but in a more mature manner, go and start with these. If I was to describe the Next and Nexus, it's essentially the 90s Gamera trilogy and the Dark Knight trilogy of Ultraman. That's the best way I describe them. They're very easy to get a hold of, and I am really looking forward to a Blu-ray release by Mill Creek down the road. Or at least a DVD. Like, I would like a Blu-ray, but if I'm stuck with a DVD, all well, I really want to own them. Hope it's released in one pack like the others, since the Next and Nexus are strongly connected. And their connection to each other is very unique compared to other Ultra shows, as like I said, the hosts are different than usual, and that's one of the things that makes it neat.
Ultraman the Next is good. And I'm sure the show is too, but I haven't seen it, so I can't say yes or no for sure.
You would like it. If you enjoyed the Next, you'll also enjoy Nexus because it has essentially everything that made the Next so good in a more continuous format. So go and check that out. The full series is on YouTube if you're interested.
I'm probably going to end up doing that at some point. It's just a little hard because my mind goes into so many places at once. Like there's so much like I want to do, want to see, and shows I want to watch. So it's like getting myself to sit down and finally make a decision on which one to watch. Know what I mean?
Yeah, most definitely, because there is a lot to start. That's essentially why I'm making this podcast. Is there's so much to watch in the Ultra series. That some people just need. That some people might feel intimidated by it.
True. My second pick was going to be Ultraman the next anyway, so I guess I want to put my 2 cents on it. Besides just saying, "Oh, it's good."
Yeah,
but
go ahead and build off it.
Yeah, the part I want to first explain what the whole religious symbolism is about. A big part of that stems from the fact that, like, I think right before he started working on Ultra Q and Ultraman, E.J. Tsuburaya, the man who founded these shows and the studio that makes them, he had converted to Catholicism. So his new dedication to this new religion of his was what's reflected in a lot of what he was working on at the time, and especially in the first Ultraman. And as you can see, like Joey said, they took those religious symbolisms and parallels and amped them up to 11 on the darkness scale for this movie, which is something I actually really enjoyed. I like that aspect.
Me too. It makes it unique. Like like I said, Ultraman's always had it, but the Next/Nexus took it and brought it to its full potential, and that's one of the things that makes them unique. Plus, I also really like the design of the Next and his other transformations, Nexus and Noah. They're very cool, neat, and different than what you usually get. The Nexus is more bulky. Nexus is similar to the Next. You can tell it's the same Ultra, but looks more traditional. And Noah looks more of a godly being.
Yeah, part of that is the fact that, well, the reason he was so much more armored in the movie is because they were trying to go for what Ultraman was originally supposed to be in the first show. He was supposed to be a hero clad in armor. What's the past tense for clad? Not important. Anyways,
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyways, here's let me lay it down this way. All the red you see on Ultraman, that's, from what I understand, that's supposed to be his exposed skin, while the silver on him was supposed to be the armor he was wearing originally.
Huh.
And
That's
and for go ahead.
And I thought that's pretty fucking cool.
Mm-hmm. So for this movie, it really was just supposed to be, for the most part, the first episode of the original Ultraman redone, which is why in the one, that's the name of the monster, right? The one?
Yes. Yes. Beast the One.
Oh, yeah, you can see you can see a lot of similarities to his look and that of
Bemular.
what was the first? Yeah, Bemular.
Yep.
If you're watching this and thinking to yourself, "Hey, he looks a lot like Bemular," it was totally intentional.
Yep.
And I also gotta say, go ahead.
I think he perfected the Bemular design. Now, you?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I also love the soundtrack. I love the rock and heavy metal guitar riffs and whatnot. I understand if people feel like they don't work. In some spots, they really don't. In other spots, it's more debatable. And then there are just spots where I'm just like, fuck you, this rocks, it needs to be here. Hell yeah!
I agree. I thought the metal in all honesty worked in
So
all aspects, especially during the action scenes when he would get up and battle Beast of One, because here's the thing, whenever it would play, you would feel like stuff is about to go down, especially since the One is a more demonic enemy to Ultraman, and Ultraman being this more badass angelic warrior to take down the One. So I think it really worked in that aspect.
yes, I agree completely. I was gonna say say something in response, but went out of my head again. Oof.
It's all good. It happens to me all the time.
I guess before moving on, there is one more point I'm gonna make. People, stay away from the English dub.
Yes.
And this is coming.
Oh god, it's awful.
This is coming from someone who actually prefers English dubs because, well, I just do when they are either good, again, in my opinion, or efficient. This one is far from efficient. It's like someone looked at the art of dubbing and it's like, let's take a shit all over it. And that's what it is. And then we have Joey here, who hates dubs in general, but even he will say, even for dubs, this is lower tier.
Yes, most definitely. It's so fucking bad. Like, I hate dubs as a whole, but there's a lot of dubs I would rather watch over this dub. It's just so bad. Not only is it hard to understand a damn word they're saying, their performances are fucking bad. And just don't watch the dub, okay? Even if you prefer it like Cody, don't watch the dub to this movie.
It was like something made by the devil himself in response to religious symbolism.
Yep. Okay, so my next pick would be Ultraman Orb and Ultraman Orb The Origin Saga. These shows, I think, are some of the best Ultra stuff we've had in recent years. They are very hard to beat, and I mean that because, for example, you have some really good characters. Guy has a more stoic attitude, but well, not stoic, but has this more cool guy attitude, but at the same time there's also moments of comedy around him, and he's got a history. His moments with the female character, I forgot her name. She's a really good character, but I forgot her name. His connection with her, I find to be really good. I don't want to get too spoilery about it, but when you go onto the show, you kind of gain an understanding on why he's drawn to her and why she's drawn to him. It is a unique connection that's overall really enjoyable. The effects, those really brought, I think, the Ultra series to a whole new level in modern day. And when it comes to the Origin Saga, which told a lot of the past story of Guy, which Guy's background is not your typical Ultraman. It has this very fantasy-like aspect, which is connection to Juggalist Juggler, which is more of hard to describe connection to Guy, but essentially they were old friends, and in modern day, they're pretty much frenemies. And that's one of the things I really enjoy about that is their connection throughout the series is very strong, which really brought us to the unique past he had with Juggalist Juggler and on why Juggler turned, well, bad to an extent. To an extent, because like I said, well, first Juggler was good, then he went to evil, and then he kind of became a anti-hero, which is really good transition in my opinion. And on the Juggler's friendship with him, when you kind of see what led to that, and overall his connection with Guy, their overall past, it's overall very enjoyable. I've been saying overall a lot, but it's not scripted, so forgive me. And in Orb, I will admit, the opening to Orb isn't my favorite. It's fine. It sets the mood and everything, but it's not my favorite thing in the world. The Origin Saga has this very hard to describe. It has this very upbeat opening that's very nice. That's fun to listen to. It just sets the tone of what you're about to see. Plus, Orb has that perfect balance of dramatic and fun. One moment you can be getting the cast of characters, just being a bunch of, not a bunch of idiots, but doing a bunch of antics that's enjoyable, puts a smile on the face, and then you could be getting into some somewhat philosophical things about what went on in their past, and then you could go on to something that's more dramatic. And it highlights everything that you really need to know about the Ultra series. And the Origin Saga just started everything well, so go and check those out. The Origin Saga, interesting enough, was actually an Amazon original series, and the background visuals were fucking incredible. You would almost forget that those were green screen backgrounds because they were that good. It looks cinematic and it's absolutely insane. And the forms to Orb, like the basic form's all right, but the other forms he gets, like the Belial form and all that, are so freaking cool. I just can't help it. I loved every bit of that. And for speaking of Belial, the use of the Belial card being the dark card that's kind of forbidden to be used was enjoyable. And it, as someone who loves Ultraman Belial, I really appreciated that type of connection he had to Orb, even if it was indirect.
I don't know enough about Ultraman Orb to make any sort of comments. All I will say is that I'm pretty sure that for the most part, what you said about the special effects being so top notch, I will agree. People, I need to stress this. Even if you don't really care for the way the special effects looked in the old shows, I promise you, they do get better over time. It's an evolution. Like, eventually they perfected how the models look, how to shoot them, and the same thing with the costumes. And then they started adding digital effects like rubble from and dust from the stomps and whatnot. And even though at first the digital effects can look jarring, they are improving over time. They do get better. That's how things work. Things evolve, like the perfect meshing of practical effects and digital effects, which is why practical effects should not be abandoned. Looking at you, Shin Godzilla. And instead, they should work to do the best of both worlds. Good practical effects and good digital effects working together to make magic.
I agree 100% because there is a lot that both there's things that benefit from CGI, but there's also things that benefit from suits, miniatures, and all of that stuff. Where when both is used, it's so nice. That's one of the things I like about the live-action Attack on Titan movies is the blend of practical effects and CGI. Is you kind of when you get the best of both worlds, you really can't beat that.
Absolutely. And I think I should say this to people because even if you find like the stories in the Ultra series and possibly other Toku series like this, even if you find the stories and characters to be either lacking or just uninteresting, they make up for it with spectacular special effects extravaganzas with their action scenes. It's chef's kiss. Mwah! Beautiful.
Oh, most definitely. Facts.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, what's your next pick?
My third and final pick is going to be Ultraman Z. And that's mostly for, other than the fact that it's one of the few Ultra series I've watched from beginning to end, it has a lot of the elements that I just talked about. Because while I remembered liking the characters as I was watching the show, there's actually an episode where, a kind of clip show episode where the main character who transforms into Z talks to a visiting alien child and explains like the hardships that could come with being an ultra hero and why it might not be as fun as folks think it is, and how he had to struggle between the fact that the kaiju are alive, but them being alive is harmful for everyone, so they kind of have to die, but he doesn't want to kill them. There are good parts like that do stand out, but for the most part, the rest of the series is a bit of a blank. All I remember is that it has some spectacular fight scenes.
Oh,
It
they
really was
do.
the best marriage. Go
No,
ahead.
finish.
It really was the best marriage of what I was talking about earlier, with the digital effects, practical effects coming together to make something special. Now, what you were going to say?
Yeah, when it comes to the effects, Super Eye Productions really have been outdoing themselves in the past couple of years when it comes to the effects and cinematography, because they are so fucking good, dude. It's absolutely insane. And I think when it comes to the characters in Zet, they are a lot of fun. Like, I especially loved that one character, forgot her name, but she has this very fun, energetic attitude that's absolutely fucking adorable. And and also you have the opening scene by Hironobu Kageyama, who's done a lot of iconic themes. He's a part of the band Jam Project that really set the tone for Zet. So
I
yeah,
love the theme song.
yeah. So if you're looking to start that definitely, not only is it one of the more modern Ultra shows and currently a fan favorite, it's pretty good, yes.
In fact, that girl you said with the energetic, upbeat attitude, wasn't she like the main character's pseudo love interest for the series, or am I thinking of someone
Um,
else?
no, that was the other girl, which I liked her too. I also liked her. I liked her as well. But yeah, you had a pretty solid cast in Zet. I would agree with you 100% there, yes.
Mm-hmm. I need to rewatch that one too. They should make more Ultraman series named after the alphabet.
But that all you have to say about Zet?
That is um all I will say is that, because there's like, I will say I hope that there's a movie, because most of these modern shows, like after they're done concluding, they'll follow up with a movie or two, and I would love to see a Ultraman Z movie.
Yeah, I would too. I think they're bound to happen. I think Trigger got a movie. I could be wrong, and if it did, Zet is probably in it, but I could be wrong.
Mm.
My next and final pick, if you don't have any more to say about Zet, that is.
Um, all I will say is that there's a lot of potential for an Ultraman Z movie, and I would hate to see them waste it.
I would too, yes.
Now on with your final pick.
My final pick is gonna be Ultraman Tiga. Another really good Ultra show. Like, this one's more on the episodic side, but despite being episodic, they find a way to really flesh out their characters. Like, you get some episodes dedicated to each member on the team. Like, you get some episodes that are more focused on Daigo, some episodes that are more focused on Nena, some episodes that are more focused on the other team members. And that's one of the things I really like about Tiga, is that later followed in other 90s Ultra shows, because it really gives you a chance to make a connection to each member on the team. Like, even on episodes where you ain't following those people, and even though if you don't have to watch those episodes to watch a certain other, you really should, because not only for completionist reasons, you also get a better connection with that crew member. And it has it where you give more of a fuck about them in battle, and that's something I really liked, and it just connects all the more better. The Lovecraftian aspects was nice, like Tiga's background with all these darker ultras amongst the other Lovecraftian aspects like Gitanozoa was nice. Like, it brought a more darker and mythical aspect to the Tiga lore while still being fun. It has this nice charm that goes for it. The soundtrack is kick-ass. And when it comes to, like, seriously, listen to that opening theme of Tiga wanna baby, take me higher. Oh shit, I can't sing. But that song is great. It's just really gets you into the mood of Ultraman Tiga. And you do get a lot of pretty cool fight scenes. It's just overall a perfect combo to really get into Ultraman, I think. And when you watch the movie, it's pretty cool to just see how Daigo and his love interest Nena go from, because in the show it builds them up together, while in the movie it straight up goes to them getting married. So it just goes to show how far their development goes. And in that movie, it very much takes the Lovecraftian lore further. It takes off where the Gitanozoa thing went by going with his past with the three dark giants, which one of them being Karmada, which is essentially the Cthulhu's daughter, that has a ultra form, a human form, and a more Lovecraftian god form. And it's overall a perfect conclusion to the series, since it really concludes everything. It wraps up everything in a nice little bow, while also taking itself completely seriously to work with what it had. So really, you can't really go wrong with watching Ultraman Tiga. It's easy to access as well. I think the full series is on YouTube. I know the movie is, so go and check that out. It gives you a taste of the 90s era of the Ultra series, while also giving you one of the best in general. Like, it's a fanfare for a reason. That's why they made Ultraman Trigger a connect to Tiga. It's because so many people love Ultraman Tiga, both the older fans and the newer fans. So really, go and watch that one if it catches your interest. But
yeah, I haven't watched the whole show of Ultraman Tiga. I have seen like one episode where Tiga, that was about time travel. I don't remember a lot about it, only that it shows like where the special effects for these Ultra shows really start to pick up, because I remember the fight scenes being spectacular. And also, this show is unique in that it brought back the Ultra series after it was dead for several years. Like, there was actually a point where they stopped doing Ultraman shows. Like, the last one of the Showa series was Ultraman 80, which ran between 80 and 81. And then there wasn't another Ultraman show until like 1996, which was this show, Tiga. And it established the Ultra multiverse, because originally the show was just supposed to stand on its own, have no connection to the rest of the series. I read up on it, so I know this stuff. But they decided to bring in the original Ultraman, OG Ultraman, Ultraman Hayata, for a team-up episode, and thus firmly established that even though Tiga was in its own timeline, there are other Ultra timelines out there. So I think that's another part of why it's so popular, is the fact that it came out so fresh, so new after the Ultra series had been gone for so long, and it had these great advancements in tokusatsu. And yeah, I think in addition to everything you just said, Joey, those are all reasons why Tiga is so popular and why it's worth being one of the first shows to check out if you do so decide to check out the Ultra series. Although I will say, once again, stay away from the English dub. I swear, I swear I prefer English dubs over subs. I'm not making this up, but I tried to watch the dub of the show because, well, someone who prefers dubs obviously is going to go to the dubs first. But again, it was just piss poor. It was the wicked shits. I couldn't understand why dubbing is an art form. It's been perfected. Why can't you do it right? What's wrong with you people?
Yeah, I seen the dub as a kid, because clearly, like, when you're a kid, like, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with you liking dub as an adult, but clearly, when you're a kid, dub is going to be your go-to, since when you're a kid, you don't want to read, you just want to watch heroes fight monsters. But when it comes to Tiga's dub, even as a kid, I was like, oh shit, this is so bad. It's not even accurate. The opening theme is catchy though, because it's so fucking cheesy. But trust me, just look up the opening theme to the 4Kids dub. Don't watch the dub itself. It's fucking bad. And that's not just me saying that as a dub fan, because like I said, even as a kid, I knew that there was something up with that fucking dub.
For sure. Although I will say I do find it fascinating. It was like dubbed and released in America in what, like the early 2000s, despite it being a 90s show. That should just tell people the quality of the show if they picked that specific Ultraman show to dub and release in America when there was so many others to choose from at that time. Oh,
Yeah.
and I have one more thing to say about Ultraman Tiga. Larger than life, searching for a hero, searching for a man with all the right stuff, searching for a hero when super's just not enough. Ultraman.
With you kind
Now
of
that I've scared away the little audience you had, my work here is done.
With the connection that you have to the stream, it kind of like you kind of sound like a fucking official pop singer, as it sounds like there's audio tuned there. But yeah, catchy song. Cydrixar, sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. Cydrixar. He said, well, the Tiga dub is more of an adaptation, but they really didn't know what they wanted it to be, a serious take or a parody, so they swapped between them on the fly. Yeah, I see that completely. Like, don't get me wrong, Ultraman always had that blend of fun, goofiness, and serious drama. That's one of the appeals to it, as it gives you the best of both worlds. But yeah, that is one of the things that makes it fail so hard, the Tiga dub, is it didn't know what to be. It tried to be serious while also goofy. Like, it wanted to do the Power Rangers thing without bringing in new scenes. And I get that, but at the same time, even though as someone who doesn't like Power Rangers, I think Tiga's dub kind of failed on that aspect. But yeah, that's just how I feel. Anyway, before we go, you have anything else to say, Cody? Cody? Anyway, to anyone wondering that, like I said at the beginning,
That's all about that.
But anyway, to anyone wondering that when it came to the trigger review, I know I said this at the beginning, but I want to make this a complete reminder. It will be back up, just as a perfectionist and dealing with and hearing some feedback from some friends. There is some edits that I need to fix because, like I said, I did rush it to kind of make it on a deadline. And even then, I still didn't make it on that fucking deadline. But I want to do a better edit of it where I don't talk so fast and I'm able to kind of balance the background music with my audio, because apparently those were distracting, and that's something I did notice when I rewatched it. I was like, oh, this doesn't feel right, but I was like, you know what, maybe that's just me being too hard on myself. Then I asked a friend's perspective, and they were like, yeah, it's a good video, but you probably should fix up the edits. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a better edited version of the trigger review, because overall I'm happy with it. But being happy with that outcome, I want to make it the best it possibly can be. I'm going to see if I can kind of throw in some of the other points I kind of left on the cutting room floor to kind of expand what I have to say. So to those who haven't seen it, go and check it out when it's re-uploaded. And those who have, if you want to hear a few extra points added into the script or just a better edited version as a whole, look forward to it. So when you do, please leave a like and comment. Algorithm likes that. But anyway, that's it for this episode. Thanks for joining me, Cody.
Happy to be here. Happy to be here.
Yep. And hope that we are able to help some newcomers to the Ultra series find some good starting points. I tried to give a few greats from each era and style just so there's variety. So hopefully we made that easier. Please comment your thoughts down below. And if you like this episode, please smash that like button, share it around, and subscribe for more awesome content. Make sure to hit that bell for notifications to keep up to date on all my future content. Also, check out my social media accounts and alt tech. Links are in the description down below. This is Gojin, the Makai Phantom, leaving the building.